My name is Amber Pichet, and I'm the marketing manager here at Ferroque Systems. I'm very excited today to have two very special people join me, Todd Hsu, president of Ferroque Systems, and of course, our guest today, Mr. Chris Fleck. Todd is one of the earliest pioneers of Citrix solutions in North America, who built one of the most successful practices in the world. His business was acquired by Citrix in 2012, after which Todd led Citrix's consulting organization in Canada for 5 years. Today, Todd joins Ferroque as both president and partner. Our guest today, Mr. Chris Fleck, is vice president and technical fellow at Citrix Systems. In this role, he's responsible for emerging technology, IP, and driving innovation. Previously, Mr. Fleck was CEO and a founder of 14 South Networks, an IBM spinoff and pioneer in the application of blade technology for the IT industry. He was an NYS licensed professional engineer and has 12 patents issued. He graduated from NYU Poly and has an MBA from Union College. I am both privileged and honored to welcome today our guest, Mr. Chris Fleck.
Hello, thanks for the intro.
So before I hand things back to Todd and Chris, I wanted to let you know that we will be hosting a Q&A after our discussion, and we'll close with some quick fire questions, which you won't want to miss. So if you do have any questions as we go along, please add them to the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them live. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thanks again for being with us.
All right. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience today. Welcome to another Ferroque Thought Leadership Series webinar. And since we're actually talking to somebody who is very advanced and ahead in technology, you know how they say, right? And people who's in technology, their technology never works. So that's the irony of it. But anyway, today we have the pleasure of having Chris Fleck to join us and to talk about what's next in the WFX, Work From X technologies. So Chris and I met in Orlando years ago during a Citrix event, and we met sharing a bottle of wine, maybe two. We had a great laugh talking about what he was doing with this Tesla that he has that has a Twitter account. For those of you who's been around, probably remember that. Yeah, he worked on a lot of things, including Google eyeglasses, IoT technology, and he shared a vision of something called Workspace Hub with me that night. Consider it was 7 years ago. Chris's vision and foresight was certainly on a different level. Chris is also a passionate mentor in technology, the tech industry in Florida. A little bit of people know that South Florida is the birthplace of many technologies, and that really changes our lives. I'm sure Chris will tell you more about it. I called Chris when we decided at Ferroque Systems to embark on the Ferroque Lambo project. For those of you who haven't heard about it, right behind me, you will see the Lamborghini Huracan that we, you can see the engine. It's actually not an engine, the front hood. It's actually a trunk. It's lifted because we're jamming in all kinds of different technology and toys into the little space in the front. So so I called Chris and said that, hey, what do you think that we should put in there, and what could it be, and what can we put in this car and make it cool? So yeah, so we decided to do this, and we're gonna have some fun talking. I can't wait to get started.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So yeah, actually you're bringing back some good memories, a really good memory, right? I mean, that's where so much business gets done, or introductions and new colleagues and friends at the Citrix events, right? At the Synergy and Summit, and I really miss those days, but I'm looking forward to getting back to those kind of events, just like I was looking forward to getting back to the office today. But yeah, I'm living on the bleeding edge, I think. I don't know whether it's our network changes or a whole bunch of stuff I just downloaded to my Mac today. And you know how that goes, right? I took a risk, and sometimes that doesn't work out. But I feel like Mark T on stage, right, at Synergy, and I still remember agonizing, like the first time he was demoing the X1 mouse and it didn't connect, and I'm like, right. So any of my tech friends out there, I'm sure many of you have had this same situation, right, where you're demoing to a customer or internally to your colleagues or your bosses, and things hiccup. And anyway, apologize for the hiccups up front, but that's part of what I do, is look for things that haven't been done before, look for opportunities that might translate to customer solutions in the future, but are quite frankly a little ahead of its time right now. And to do that, you need to experiment, you need to take some risks, you need to build prototypes, and that's the nature of what we do, at least the team here.
Fantastic. So yeah, so that's a good segue to our first question for you is, how did you start in the journey in the bleeding edge of technology innovation? Because your role as Citrix is to really define these things that are 5-7 years out. Like, how did you start it? Like, how did you start in this role?
In the world, well, so I started my tech career at IBM originally, and went through a couple of jobs there, manufacturing, engineering, and some software jobs, but ended up in a role where we were taking technologies that were developed inside IBM that were not being commercialized. They were not. They were kind of research projects that were then sitting on a shelf. And when Lou Gerstner came in, he wanted to commercialize things. He wanted to find ways to make money and license things and make use of the research projects. And one of those research projects took me to what was the original blade server technology, and I couldn't get the internal funding I needed to complete the project, but I got motivated. This is back in the .com days, right, when things were booming. And I decided to take a risk and do a spinoff from IBM and raise VC money, and went through that whole kind of startup life cycle. And quite frankly, that's how I met Mark Templeton. Mark was on my board of the company. And so it turned out to be a great learning experience, and also ended up, quite frankly, being connected to Citrix through that. So I started Citrix 18 years ago. And one of the, when you talk about innovation, one of my North Stars, one of the folks that I really looked up to was someone named Clay Christensen, that many of you may have heard of. If you haven't heard of him, you've heard of his work. He was the original not just thought leader, but he came up with a disruptive technology theory and disruptive innovation theory. And he wrote a book called Innovator's Dilemma, and he wrote a whole series of books. And so he's a Harvard professor and a consultant. Unfortunately, he died about a year ago, but when I did my startup, I read his book called Innovator's Dilemma, and I was like putting myself exactly in the book. And then I went, after starting at Citrix, I went up to Harvard for a workshop that he was hosting, all going deep into this innovation technology theory. And I, at the time, Citrix was a one-trick pony. It was, you remember WinFrame, MetaFrame, right? And that was it. And it was, what he was describing was pretty much how big companies can basically get disrupted by smaller guys if you make these, ROI only decisions. And if you only listen to the highest profitable customers, and you ignore every risk, and you ignore every technology that may not be mature enough yet to take the market, some startup is going to come along and disrupt you. That's kind of the thesis of disruptive innovation theory. And because what happens is, over time, Moore's law says that, okay, things are going to double in performance every 12 months or 18 months. And so what may be underperforming today, 2 years from now, may meet the requirements. 3 years from now, it may even exceed the requirements. And so anyway, I said to him, to Clay Christensen, I got to get you down to Citrix and meet with Mark Templeton, our CEO, and the leadership team. And we did. So he came down and met, spent the day with our leadership team, and then had a follow-on engagement. But yeah, so I think that was actually, when you talk about innovation, he was, Clay Christensen is the godfather of innovation. And I kept in touch with him, and used to go every year up to workshops that he's hosting. There's a new book, in fact, from his partner called Change Leadership, Change from the Future, or Lead from the Future, I'm sorry, from a guy named Mark Johnson. And that's a good book, and follows on the same theory around disruptive innovation. And it would be something I'd recommend to folks as well. Lead from the Future, Mark Johnson. So anyway, get back to Citrix. So, I didn't expect to be at Citrix a long time, because once you get the fire in the belly to do your own thing, just as you've got, Todd, right? You've done a couple of startups and your own businesses, and you get that fire in the belly, and it really motivates you to get up in the morning and do, make things happen. And the good news for me, quite frankly, is at Citrix, I've had enough freedom and enough opportunity to have that kind of drive and that opportunity to make things happen. So I haven't been motivated to, kind of like I did at IBM, where I got kind of constrained, and the only way to make things happen was to leave. At Citrix, the culture and the opportunity here is basically led me to a path where I got to look for, what are those things that are not in the roadmap, either looking ahead or adjacent, and identify opportunities that we should be pursuing. And in some cases, it's acquisitions like a NetScaler or Ardents or things like that. In other cases, it's things like, what are the adjacent opportunities that we should be interested in. And so I've got a small team as well that builds prototypes, that creates, proof of concepts, and then we put them in front of customers. We put them in front of partners like yourself. We put them in front of CTPs, our sales guys, and then we pivot. We go further or we pivot, and yeah, it's a really good opportunity for Citrix to look ahead and look for new opportunities to satisfy customer challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And I always thought that was one of the coolest things, coolest jobs that you guys have, like, in terms of when I was inside of Citrix, when I was working there. I thought that was one of the coolest gigs that you could have, and it's a lot of fun. So
it's a rough job, but
so
somebody's got to do it, right? So I'm looking at some of the cool things. So here's a new cool thing, right? So I think, have you talked to your partners about this yet? The in computing iGel Pi?
Yeah, for sure. I have one right here.
Oh, good.
Let me go get it.
All right. So are you looking in the car? You got it in the under the hood yet, or you? Oh, there you go. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. That's it. That's our friend from iGel sent it over to us.
So yeah, actually last week I was on a call with Eben Upton. I don't know if you know that name or not, or the audience, but he is the guy, the genius, quote unquote, from Cambridge that came up with the Raspberry Pi, and has turned it into a company, turned it into a phenomena. they've actually exceeded 40 million devices shipped. Is that amazing? 40 million Raspberry Pis have been shipped. So it's the #3 platform, x86, Mac, and then Pi.
Wow, phenomenal.
Yeah,
and and I remember, like I said, I remember when we first met, you were talking about Raspberry Pi as part of your Workspace Hub, right? And
right.
And how fast times has changed. So you were talking about the significance of some technology and technology innovation changes certain things, and one of your passion, I understand, is South Florida and tech.
Yep.
You would argue to everyone and anyone you would listen about how South Florida is more significant in tech than anybody else. So
Yep.
yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about some of the good stuff that you're doing with that as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on the board of a group called the South Florida Technology Alliance. We also have a brand called Tech Lauderdale, but it's basically the local tech community here in Florida, South Florida. But it actually has a really rich history here. And so what a lot of folks don't know is obviously Citrix. We're headquartered here, and we came, was born, there was a brief stint in Texas for the funding reasons, but it actually was spun out from IBM in Boca Raton, from Ed Iacobucci, the original founder of Citrix, was the architect for OS2. So for those that may remember OS2, and Ed was the founder of, or the architect for OS2, and then he actually got offered the job to be CTO of Microsoft, and he went out and met with Bill Gates and Ballmer, and they were really insulted when he turned them down, and he said, "Well, I really kind of want to try to do this myself," and that's how Citrix was born. And so actually, a couple of years ago, we had an event with Ed Iacobucci when he was with us. Him plus John Scully plus Mark Templeton plus we had the mother of the motherboard. We had the guy that ran the group, Gary Wisgo, for the smartphone. So a lot of leaders that came out of South Florida. So yeah, going back in time, the original IBM PC came from South Florida. x86 and DOS came from South Florida. The original smartphone called the Simon, again, developed in South Florida by IBM. It was a joint venture of IBM and Bell South at the time. And so, yeah, the things, smartphones and the IBM PC, that's pretty prolific, right? There's a guy named Dave Bradley that he was one of the original 12 engineers that developed the IBM PC. I just saw him actually last week on a bike ride. He was in Deerfield Beach. He's retired from IBM now, but he goes out walking every morning, and he's the guy that actually invented Control-Alt-Delete. So, there's something. How many people have done Control-Alt-Delete? How many times in their lives, right? And here's a guy. He developed the firmware for the IBM PC, and he lives right here in Boca, in South Florida. The original pagers that Motorola had were developed here. So there's a lot of interesting history in South Florida. And then, bringing it forward, there's new interesting tech companies as well. Besides Citrix, obviously we're doing well, but there's companies like Ultimate Software. There's companies like Magic Leap with the augmented reality glasses. We can touch on that later. The biggest e-commerce deal that has happened is a company called Chewy, which is the pet food company that got bought for $3 billion a couple of years ago. That's a South Florida company as well. So it's not just, legacy stuff like the original PC. There's new good stuff going on here as now. And what's interesting, I think, as well, what's happening is we're seeing with the remote work, right, and the companies that are being more and more flexible, I think it's giving people the opportunity to live where they want. And so we're seeing a real boom in terms of real estate and tech people moving to Florida because they might, their headquarters might be somewhere else, but they're living in Florida and enjoying the weather and the tax rate and some of the other benefits.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. So, so we touch on your journey with Citrix, and you talked about a lot of different things that you've developed or worked on. I think we already know, like, Raspberry Pi and Workspace Hub is, right, obviously that it's it really became a very important part of what we have today in the workspace stack. But and so devices like this and everything, that was obviously what you worked on. But what is the technology that you worked on in the last 18, 19 years at Citrix that was the most memorable? When I say memorable, I meant memorable. I'm not talking about was the best or was the worst. I'm talking about the most memorable.
Yeah. So it was. There were a lot of great memories. The VDI. Doing the first VDI implementation, the networking, NetScaler, Ardens. Probably the most memorable, though, it was the iPad, building receiver for the iPad. And so it came from, my team. Gus Pintos was the lead developer. Some may remember him. And so he was on my team. We basically, I went out to meet with Apple when iPad was just a rumor, and it was real NDA, really restrictive kind of scenario where we had to sign personally, and we could only have 5 people that even knew about the project. They sent somebody to deliver it to us. We had to have a locked room that didn't have a badge lock. It had to be a key entry with only 2 keys. With 2 people that also signed the NDAs as key holders. There was just incredible scrutiny over, and there was only a couple of partners that had early access to the original iPad, and so they had one of their engineers actually come hand deliver it, and it was almost like one of those FBI scenarios with it chained to his wrist, and we literally had to, we got the iPad, and you could see the display, but it had this really big, heavy box around it, surrounding it, containing it, so you really didn't know what the size of the iPad was, and it had these screws that you couldn't unscrew, and it was really a interesting project, and they basically set us up because they knew the opportunity of getting receiver and all the business applications onto the iPad, and it was something that we were then at day 0 when they launched the iPad. We were the business enterprise solution, and we were top for a long time, the #1 business app in the App Store for a number of years. We also that year it came out, we won the best enterprise app at Networld Interop. So there were two awards at Networld Interop. Not Networld Interop. It was Mobile World Congress, the really big event in Europe. So Mobile World Congress, there were 2 awards. One was the best consumer app, and that was Angry Birds, and then the best enterprise app, and that was Citrix Receiver at the time. So yeah, that was a great memory, and it actually led into another project. Some of you might remember this. This is the original prototype X1 mouse, and so One of the things that Apple did when they released the iPad is, even though they worked with us and collaborated on the getting receiver working well on the iPad, they still didn't like the idea of a mouse for the iPad. They wanted it to be all gesture, all fingers, only swipes. But we know, right, especially in the Citrix world and Windows applications, you need right click, you need scroll, you need hover, you need these things to get the best, performance out of any device, right, that you're going to run Citrix on. And so we have, again, part of my team, we acquired a little company called Virtual with some brilliant guys that basically figured out how to build our own app, and we basically built into Receiver the ability to talk to a specific mouse. So we had custom firmware on a custom mouse, and then the complementary code on the in the receiver, so it looked like just a Bluetooth peripheral. Didn't look like a mouse to Apple. Sorry, Apple. But yeah, so the mouse turned out to be a really big hit. We did lots of multi-million-dollar deals because executives could finally use an iPad with all the apps they needed, and we actually just we did it for 5 years, and it wasn't until recently that again, working with Apple, where they kind of recognized with the intelligent, the new dock they've got with the smart keyboard and the trackpad built in. They recognized the trackpad made sense, and then they came to us and said, well, what can we do to get the Citrix features, the X1 features working on the trackpad on the new keyboard for the iPad. And so we worked with them, and we were able to actually port the X1 features not only to the trackpad on the new keyboard for the iPad, but we also then extended that to generic mice. And so if you download the new Workspace app, it actually has generic mouse support as well now. So I would say that's one of the kind of good memories at Citrix, taking the iPad all the way through to the mouse and the millions of users today.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest deal. I remember when I think that was 2010 when the first iPad that came out into the market space. I mean, like, and that really put the Citrix, Citrix at the time, the receiver, into another stratosphere, because all of a sudden people were like, well, what's this, right? What's Citrix? So that was definitely memorable, and the X1 mouse is definitely memorable. I remember the day when they announced it on stage. Somebody placed an order for 3,000 units, something like that, on the spot.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I actually saw when I was.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, when I was just packing up the office, I came across the ad that I saved. We did a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal that showed the iPad, but with a Citrix virtual desktop running inside, and it made some. I forget the tagline. All your apps on the iPad. Apple wasn't so happy with us at that point, but we didn't. That was one of those. You face those dilemmas of, do you ask for permission or ask for forgiveness? So we asked for forgiveness in that case.
Of course. And then 10 years later, they came out with a keyboard and a mouse, right? So
yeah, right.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, and so let's fast forward. Like, what are you working these days at Citrix? Anything you care to share with us, or you're allowed to share with us? or
Yeah,
you can,
sure.
or we can just ask forgiveness later.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So I'm not good at holding back. But take with what I say with a grain of salt, because it doesn't, just because I say it doesn't mean it's committed, roadmap, et cetera, right? So a couple of things. One is the new embedded browser in Workspace app. So we've got the in Workspace app. So for those that have been following Citrix, and I don't know if you're up to date or not up to date. If you're not up to date, we didn't just change the name from receiver to Workspace app. Yes, we changed the name, but one of the reasons we changed the name is because it's so much more than just a receiver for HDX. So it still does the receiver for HDX function, but what the big step up in functionality is having an embedded browser. And so that embedded browser gives you full function for running any web app, any SaaS application, but adding some of the traditional security controls and manageability controls that would take virtualization to do, you can now do through our secure workspace access product, which is part of the workspace app component that goes with it. And so when you think about it, as we know, right, there's a big market for virtualization, and we're the big gorilla there. But there's an even bigger market for web and SaaS applications that they continue to come online every day, and in some cases it still makes sense to virtualize a browser for those, but in a lot of other cases they're running natively, right, in a local browser. The problem is with a local browser, you lose all those controls. You don't have the ability to control what's happening in terms of downloads and watermarking and printing and all those kind of things, especially in a BYO scenario. You just can't control it. And so when we own the browser, we can actually put those things back in control of the IT group. What we can also do is improve the user experience. So we can improve the single sign-on capability to all these other apps. We can improve the navigation. We can use machine learning and AI to be able to recognize what people are doing and suggest improvements. And actually, so looking forward, we'll be able to analyze. We besides the embedded browser, we also have an agent for our analytics service. So we can look at the data that's coming through and all of the analytics that goes with that, and again, right now we can do things like look for security anomalies and look for performance issues. But when you think about it looking forward, we can do a lot more, right? We can look at the data inside. We can anticipate things. There's just a world of opportunity around being in that stack, right? Being in that layer between the user and the infrastructure. And whether that infrastructure is virtual or SaaS or web, we can be part of that path and add value. So that's a big exciting thing myself and team are working on. And then the other is, and it sort of fits into the same, which is the workspace intelligence itself, building micro apps, doing things to make people more productive, using like the new Reich acquisition. I don't know, have you kicked the tires on Reich yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, there's free demos, so I recommend go kick the tires. Anybody listening, go kick the tires on Reich. If you're using spreadsheets for your task management, or you're using Microsoft Project, or you're using some of these other tools that are out there, I think you'll be impressed at what you can do with Reich. And that's Reich as a standalone kind of productivity project management kind of system. But what we'll be doing, obviously, is tying that in with our files, tying that in with our workspace, and really creating a more productive work environment, which I think is especially relevant in the COVID, post-COVID scenario where there's going to be more people in a hybrid scenario working, remote employees plus on-site employees, and doing that in a structured way, but not the hierarchical tops down. What can we do to make employees and colleagues more productive, working kind of peer to peer? So we're doing some interesting things, again, using machine learning, looking at the analytics of the apps that get used, and time of day, meetings, more going beyond just traditional meetings. What can we do to enhance virtual meetings? Another project actually working on right now is an app, a micro app we call Compass, and we're literally deploying it to all the 10,000 Citrix folks right now in the back to office scenario. And what that does is it allows you to not only navigate the floor plans and see all the buildings and where are your colleagues, where is the meeting I'm supposed to be scheduled for, how do I get there, do a map, a wayfinding map of how to get to this conference room I never heard of. So it does that, and what it also does is like desk reservation, because at Citrix, we had a lot of assigned seats, assigned workstations, and then some open seating depending on the department you were in. We're now going to almost all open seating, hot desk kind of scenarios, and I think for our customers are going to be doing the same thing. Everybody is going to be that basically working in a hybrid mode. I say everybody, maybe it's 80%. I don't know. It's not 20% anymore. It's going to be a majority where you're not working 5 days a week, 9 to 5 in the office. And what that translates to is you need better tools to navigate the office. You need better tools to create an equal environment for the people that are working remote with the people that are in the office. And the reality is, it's not perfect today, right? Teams is okay, but still has room to improve. GoToMeeting is okay, still has room to improve. Zoom is okay, still has room to improve. So I think there's lots of opportunity to improve the hybrid kind of work experience.
Yeah, if you can actually kick people out of their meeting room when their time is up, that'll be even better. I think that's that's the pain in most of our enterprise customers, workspace, right? Pre-pandemic, that is, of course.
Yeah. So I'm looking for my LED light. So we have a device actually that we're working on that plugs into the Workspace Hub, and so the Workspace Hub has an IoT connector in it. So basically a unique programmable webhook. And so what we can do is not only sense when somebody's in the room or not, and give feedback to the real estate system to know that this room is occupied or not. But what we can also do is say if the room is being occupied and it's getting close to the end of the meeting, what we can do is start flashing that light. And it's an LED light, and we can start pulsing it red, and then we can pulse it faster and faster. And as you get closer to the end of the meeting, instead of having people wandering outside the door and sticking their head in and saying time's up, we're going to do that with IoT.
Yeah, that'll be great. That's and I think as all these items being more and more popular, and you guys creators become more, the technology become more mature, this will definitely happen. So let's talk about something fun. Sitting beside me, as you can see, it's my our Ferroque Lambo, Lamborghini.
Yep.
So we try to jam as many workspace technology stack into this car.
Right.
So I'll give you a little summary. There is a NUC, a little small server that's hosting VMs in the front trunk, and it's backed up by a battery. It's connected to a Citrix SD-WAN 110 device, so that it has two LTE connections to the to our to our data center in the office.
Yep.
And we have the Workspace client running on the center console. So the screen in the middle console of the car can actually run the Workspace client, so that it can launch the virtual work desktop from there.
Yeah.
We have a portable printer, a portable scanner. That's all connected to the Wi-Fi, because the SD-WAN device provides the local Wi-Fi to the car.
Yep.
So what else can you think of that we could actually add to it? And what else can shall we do this? Because what's the what would be like a Chris Fleck version of this car project to be?
Right. Well, certainly we're going to want to, and I'm looking forward to seeing your car and getting a ride in South Florida.
Oh,
right?
No, yeah, we talked about this, and for those of you who don't know, those of you who are listening, we are bringing this car around the country, around North America. We set some dates already, and Chris has agreed that when we ship it down to Florida, he's going to do some crazy stuff to it, so that so let's give us some preview. What do you think we can actually do in this?
Right. Well, I think one of the ones certainly that's going to make sense is the virtual assistant, right? Being able to talk to a variety of applications through the virtual assistant and interact with it, get responses back, understand not just your calendar, but actually work on some of your to-dos and the tasks that you would otherwise have to wait till you get in the office to do. You'll be able to do it as you're cruising around town in the Lambo. So I think the virtual assistant is going to be a big one. Doing I think there's going to be a bunch of micro apps as well that go alongside what you've done already, and being able to again make your job easier, make it more productive, and recognize when you get, now in your case, I guess if you've got the virtual desktop hot already, you'll be able to go from the car to the office, right? But we can do things like with Bluetooth or with a GPS or hotspot or Wi-Fi kind of recognition. We can do things, for example, like kicking off a virtual machine that is asleep and wake it up. So by the time you get from the parking lot into your office, it's hot and ready to go. And so, I think there's things like that that are interesting to make it interactive between a mobile kind of scenario and an office. I look out in the future, and there's no doubt that augmented reality is going to play a part, right? Not only with driving, but in general. I'm actually looking forward to robo taxis, right? And so have the car come pick you up. And you probably saw it, Todd. I see Lambo. They agreed they're going to put their hat in the ring and do an electric car.
They're going to have a EV. That's right.
Yeah, right.
By 2030.
Was it that bad? Well, actually, yes, right? Because they said the second half of the 2020s, which translates to 2029 in December.
That's right. They said before 2030. That's what they're saying, right? So
yeah. So we know how that goes, but I think the reality is there's going to be more opportunity to work from the back seat, right? To have people drive you around. I think that's going to be the case for people like yourself, right? That love driving. you're going to keep driving the Lambo, but being able to use the voice assistant, I think is going to be a big deal. Being able to do heads up driving, where you've got like a simple micro app that is giving you a simple task, and you just want to approve something or move something, so it doesn't fill up your inbox. Doing things like that, I think, are definitely going to be enhancements to to driving experience, and making you more productive at the same time, and fun, right?
Right.
So yeah, certainly the SD-WAN makes a lot of sense, right? Where you're going to be driving so fast, you need to be able. We're going to stress test that, right, to see how well we can bond those networks.
Correct. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're seeing. We're seeing some, we're actually seeing some challenges, believe it or not, is the and then that kind of just also brought us to from someone who's working on local area network, and grew up on, let's say, Ethernet, right? And now you're trying to think about what's moving in the air through the cellular towers, and different providers and different services areas, and now you're gonna have to take into consideration of the moon and the sun. It's different. It really is. It really opens up a lot of horizons, and we also, through this experiment, we realized that we're still scratching the surface from the ultimate working from anywhere, right? And there's still a lot to be improved. That's what I think, right? A lot to be learned and improved and perfected, like so I mean, today is a perfect example. We had a little glitch, and that happens on almost daily basis for whatever reason, and so there's still a lot to be done.
Yeah,
and
yeah. So, well,
keeps it exciting.
Well, what you should do maybe is look at the schedule for the satellite launches. So Elon Musk is putting up, right, with SpaceX, all these satellites for internet connectivity, and so you may want to get one of those devices and put it in the Lambo and make that, right? Why not, right?
Well, it's a Lambo. It's
What's
a Lambo.
that?
I don't think Elon's gonna approve. It's a Lambo. Elon's not gonna approve that. If it was a Tesla, I'm sure he would be okay with it.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's asking. Now I don't know how big the dish is. It's not that big,
It's not that big. Not that big.
Yeah. So I've heard there's definitely people that are putting them on RVs and stuff to be in the middle of nowhere to get network. So I like. Did you see the tagline he uses for the beta version?
No.
It's funny. So it's still under beta, but it is available in certain locations. And the tagline, so the tagline is better than nothing. So it's not, he's setting the expectation. So it's he's not guaranteeing any SLAs, but it's certainly better than nothing. Pretty funny.
Well, you're gonna have to deal with latencies issues, but the bandwidth will be there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and and those satellites are low, right? So I don't know. Have you seen? I don't know what the latency is, but I thought it was manageable. I thought it was like 100 or 200, not like 500. Because the space station, I don't know.
Not professional gaming. Not professional gaming, great, but for business apps and streaming your Netflix is plenty good.
Right.
That's what I see from my friend's cottage.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I talked to one of the astronauts that was in the space station that actually used Citrix, and that was pretty cool a couple of years ago, and met him. And Steve Swanson, his name is, and so he was using Citrix from the International Space Station, and he would, in that case, they had 500 millisecond latency. And so,
Right.
it worked, but it definitely had some
when you
impact.
type a character, yeah, you type a character, it takes half a second to display on the screen, right? So
Right. Yeah.
that's what happens. But it's fun. Like I said, those are things that makes it fun. All right,
Yeah.
so that's so I'm certainly looking forward to put more tech into this car, and for those of you who joined us today, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and and pay attention because as we put more stuff into it, we're gonna have more videos, and then also Chris and I will we'll be putting some really cool stuff into this car, driving down A1A in South Florida, that's for sure. So hey, so let's get into some fun questions. Just so even though we've been having a lot of fun so far.
Yep.
But let's get people to understand you, know you a little bit better personally. We always ask our guest 5 questions. Well, sorry, one, the same question for the first one, but 5 quick questions just to get to know you. First one, and I ask the same for everybody, is that if there's a movie made for the life of Chris Fleck, which actor would you like to play Chris Fleck?
How about Ben Affleck? How's that?
Wow. Okay.
Why not?
Expect that. I didn't expect that, but hey, it's your movie. It's your life.
Right.
So Ben
That's
Affleck.
right.
Yeah, you know what? He's a really smart dude that knows how to count cards. Maybe I think that's your hidden talent.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Ben Affleck. Oh, that's a good one. I love it. Didn't expect that. All right. So we're talking about Lamborghini going to make an EV. So to you, Tesla or the other EVs? Meaning, what do you think? Tesla versus the field.
Yeah. So full disclaimer, I own Tesla stock, and I'm happy about that. I'm not happy this past month or two. It's going down, but I'm long term, and so yeah, I think they just have such a big lead. There's no doubt the whole world is going to go EV, and so as they go EV, everyone's going to consider Tesla. They may not buy it, but 100%, everybody's going to consider it. And they've got the supply chain locked in with battery development. They've got there's all kinds of negative press about the full self-driving feature. I tell you, it's really good, and it keeps getting better. And so I expect them to be leading in that space. Yeah, I don't see anybody beating Tesla. I do see lots of competition, and but it's 100. The market, the addressable market is every car. I think everything is going to go electric. Yeah. So it's just a huge market. So that's my bet.
What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with my old Porsches?
Yeah, right. Yeah, collector's items, but right.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So the next one, and I asked Mark Templeton the same question: Mac or Windows?
Mac. Or I should say Pi.
Oh, you should say Pi, right?
Exactly. Mac, Windows, or Pi. 40 million of these. Isn't that amazing? 40 million. And this actually fits that same. We were talking about disruptive technology and disruptive innovation, and this fits that same curve. And as a matter of fact, I wrote a blog on it a while back, and I described it to Clay Christensen, and he started using the example, and I gave him a Pi I had with me, actually a Pi Zero, and he loved it because it fit his disruptive technology theory, exactly. And yeah, it's really fits that example.
Cool. And okay, and then the fourth one we're gonna have is augmented reality. Is it real?
So it will be, well, it's real-ish, right? So it's real-ish.
Okay.
So I'm actually working with a local small company that that I really like, and what they're doing is, what Magic Leap and HoloLens are going after. Quite frankly, it's really hard, right? And they're doing full high resolution, immersive kind of visualizations, but that translates to big headsets, and it translates to powerful computers that have to drive it, and expense, and wearing things that you're never going to wear in real life. So what I like is, on the other end of the curve, is smart glasses, that look like this, and the processor is small enough to fit inside the frame. And what I envision is, think effectively, like, take the apps that are on your Apple Watch and turn them into micro apps, right? And we've got an app builder, right, that can do that, right? So what I'm envisioning is short term, short term meaning a year or two. There's going to be smart glasses that do simple tasks that give you that ability to, approve an expense account, or, reply to a message, or do things, right with a standard pair of glasses in your line of sight, and that going after sort of that simple use case or set of use cases first, and then downstream it will be high resolution, full animation display, and really turn into a mixed reality kind of environment. The problem is that technology is just too expensive and too big to go mainstream for that full immersive kind of mixed reality. But it's coming. It's inevitable. And so, yeah,
So it's kind of like it. So you're saying it's kind of like how graphic user interface, that how whole UI, this will become like the next UI that we will be interacting with.
Well, I think there'll be two steps. I guess it'll be the baby step, which will be just like simple little task apps, like micro apps or watch phone apps, and they're going to be in your line of sight. Then the bigger step is going to be the full immersive mixed reality. But I think that's still probably 4 years, 5 years away to make it small enough, cheap enough, where it's going to be pervasive. But it's coming. When you look 5 years back wasn't that long ago, right? That was 2016. Right. I remember 2016 like yesterday. Some of the things that happened. Yeah. So it's going to happen. And then when you think about it, once that happens, that's a big bet, right? Because if you can do it, if you can see everything through smart glasses, what happens to all these other displays? Your TV. Do you still need an 80-inch TV? You still need a laptop.
Right.
You still need, a workstation with dual monitors. You're going to be able to just put as many monitors as you want in your virtual space, and we can actually do that now. With a HoloLens or Magic Leap, you can have a whole NOC running in your world.
Wow.
We can actually do that now, actually. So yeah, that's what
I meant. Like, probably it will be the new UI, right, for all of us at one point.
Yeah. And then I was listening to a guy the other day that's working on the contact lens version, which is really remarkable. So basically building a chip that will be small enough to be a wireless contact lens that will not only provide augmented reality kind of messaging like I described, but it will also even do vision correction. So I'm kind of looking forward to that and getting rid of my reading glasses. That'll be kind of cool.
Oh man, you're right. and actually I think that there's even TV dramas being made about those technologies. There's a K-drama, there's a Korean drama, by the way, for those of you who has Netflix. You could actually stream it. It's got English subtitles, but it's called the show, the TV drama is called Memory of Alhambra, and it's about a reality video game, and you put the lenses on in your eyes, and and it becomes you live in that world, which is kind of kind of scary. It's actually coming, right?
What's the name of it? I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, it's called Memory of Alhambra.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
There's
it's a Korean K-drama.
Okay.
I was forced to watch it because my wife is a fan of the main actor. He's extremely handsome. But then, like, when I started watching, because she made me watch it, and then I was like, wow, wait a minute. I started putting all technology pieces together. It was it becomes quite fascinating.
There's a really,
take a look at it.
Yeah, there's a really cool video that just got published by Neuralink. Do you know Neuralink, one of Elon Musk's many companies? And so they implanted a chip, a wireless chip in a monkey that connected to the right spots in the brain, and then trained it. And what they were able to do is basically play video games, and they trained it initially just like watching it, feeding him, like giving a little reward every time he moved the Pong video game up. And well, so he trained it that way with a joystick. Then what they did is through machine learning and looking at the basically the electrons going back and forth, the electricity signals between this chip and the brain, they were able to detect patterns and replicate the patterns. And so they could, the monkey could match with the joystick his head movement, basically his thought movements. Then what they did is they unplugged the joystick, and he kept doing it with his hand, and it worked. He could still accurately play. And then they got rid of the joystick altogether, and the monkey is playing Pong with no hands accurately.
Oh wow!
So it's out there. Just Google on YouTube Neuralink. It's only a couple of weeks old, but it's kind of mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Oh, that's so cool.
Fun times we live in.
Yep. Yeah, fun times. Last one, and I think I know the answer, but I think you can tell people. Silicon Valley or South Florida?
Hey, so Silicon Valley's a nice place to visit, but I like warm water. We got, not only do we got tech history, we got cool companies, we got beaches, and we got warm water. So yeah, I'm happy here.
And lower taxes.
And zero state income tax. So that's a nice penny for sure.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Chris. I will hand this back to that concludes my questions, and I hand this back to Amber.
It was amazing listening to you, Chris, and being a part of this discussion today. Thank you so much for all your insight and ideas and the stories you've told. They were really fun to listen to. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I enjoyed being here, and I'll listen to your, looking forward to your future webinars that you have with others as well. I love the one you did with Mark T recently. I listened to it, but I might go back just for the Moody Blues music. That was so good.
Yes, absolutely.
So hey, for anybody out there, just closing message is like, look for me in the bar at the next, real in IRL synergy or summit, right? That's how I met Todd. That's how, that in the tech community, that's how we connect, right? And you get, lifelong friends and colleagues and do business. And I'll be wearing a crazy shirt and probably some AR glasses.
Very funny. Right. Awesome. So
right.
we have definitely gone over our scheduled time. So thank you everyone who's joined us today. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate your time, Chris. Thank you for the audience for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.